Good evening and welcome to everyone in our audience. And I'll call the Board of Ed meeting to order at 7:01. And we'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I need an approval of the agenda, which includes an executive session at the end of the meeting.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Tim. And a second?
A second.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Approval of the consent agenda. It includes February 7th Board of Ed regular meeting and an approval of the February 23rd Board of Ed special meeting minutes. Need a motion on that, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Tim.
I'll second.
Thank you, Stacy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. Audience of citizens, do we have anybody on the chat rooms or that wants to address us?
Just gonna
Let it run a little bit? Okay.
carry through this like delay.
Okay. Not at this time. Okay, well, they'll have a second chance down as the meeting comes to an end. Thank you. Portland Public School Spotlight, Equity Leadership Team. Are they available?
The whole crew.
All right. Oh, my goodness.
Would you guys start by introducing yourselves?
Good.
We left you guys enough room there.
I know, squeeze you all in.
I don't want
Do you want to stand here? Do you want me to introduce? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to introduce everybody. So good evening. We are the Valley View School-Based Equity Leadership Team. So I am Jennifer Estes. I teach kindergarten. Megan Campbell, kindergarten. And Mrs. Thorpe, Library Media Specialist. She helped us with this presentation. Sorry. Mrs. Elvinson, kindergarten. And Mrs. French teaches art. Mrs. McCarthy Novak teaches first grade. And Mrs. Nelson teaches music. So we have our grade levels and our music as well. Okay, so we wanted to come and share the work that we have been doing in our equity team meetings this year, and it's really the work that we've been doing with our students. But a little background, the kindergarten team got the chance to work with Jill Zano from CREC last year, and she came in and she brought read-alouds with her. She came into every kindergarten classroom once a week. She read a story and she engaged the kids in some rich discussion. And it was really under the big umbrella of equity. So she talked about community, identity, diversity, and social action. And then she did a follow-up activity. This year, unfortunately, we don't have Mrs. Zano with us from CREC, but we wanted to continue that work, and we wanted to bring it forward to first grade as well. And then through our work here, we also brought it through art and music. So what we have been doing is looking at children's literature under all of those categories, and then coming up with some vocabulary words that we wanted to really focus on and having some meaningful discussions around all of these topics. And Mrs. McCarthy Novak has really worked as the leader of her team because we don't have Mrs. Zano this year, so she had to bring it forward to first grade as well. So all of these topics align with our vision of the graduate, so we're starting right from pre-K to make sure that we really engage students in all of these topics. So tonight we're going to share what we have done. Again, we have our work with our students, so we have a lot of short video clips with the students. And we start the year by reading a book by Peter H. Reynolds, The Word Collector. And so we become word collectors, and that's where we get our vocabulary words from. And we have big bulletin boards, and we post the words throughout the year. And we are really fortunate because Peter H. Reynolds is going to visit Valley View on Monday, so very exciting, great connection there. So at the beginning of the school year, we talk about community, so you'll see like a slide under each kind of topic. And then we move on to identity, what makes everybody unique, and then we celebrate our differences through diversity and making sure that everyone feels seen, heard, valued, included. So I hope you enjoy. This is our bulletin board. And then Peter H. Reynolds, we were very fortunate to have him come and visit us on Monday.
Which is your favorite book? I color myself different. Why is I color myself different your favorite? Because it doesn't matter which color skin you have, it's just the way that you are. And it doesn't matter.
And what's the most important thing you said?
That it doesn't matter which skin you have because they're all perfect colors.
What's your favorite, Jacob?
Perfectly normal.
Why is Perfectly Norman your favorite?
Because you can be perfectly yourself and who you are.
Favorite?
My favorite was Perfectly Normal because nothing's like trying to hide his wings, and that's kind of like me, but I like that.
How's it like you?
I kind of sometimes hide things that I don't think are normal.
So we kind of tried to
Go ahead, PJ. Which is your favorite book?
we tried to pull from a few kids. I
Favorite.
went through and
My
that's okay. Showed them all the titles so they could kind of see all the stories that we've spoken to, talked about, and they were able to share a few of their favorites. And it's really one of the most meaningful things I teach during the day. And you can see from this some of the books are ones we recently did, and then you'll see later on some books that we, did a while ago. So they really grab onto one important idea, and it's amazing, even during conversations during other subjects during the day, they'll bring up the book. And I've heard it throughout first grade, that this amazing impact that these books are making on them.
What is cooperation?
work together.
What is communication?
When we share our thoughts.
And this is our kindergarten and building our community.
What is cooperation? What is communication?
Love those little voices.
I'm unique because I swim. I am unique because I do dance. I am unique because I do karate. Families were magnificent because they had all different skin colors.
So that was in my classroom. We did I Color Myself Different. And the children could share why their family was magnificent. And they said all different reasons. And still, it's interesting to see them go into the crayons that we offer. And we have various skin tones they can choose from. And some of the kids, it's the first time, and that's what the book I Color Myself Different really talks about. It's the first time they pick a color that they feel like is really true to them. And sometimes we have to have a conversation because they'll want to pick the, peach crayon that maybe other people are picking, and then they're like, no, like I can pick something that looks more like me. And she was sharing about her family, that her family's all different colors.
So kindergarten and first graders created collaborative story quilts.
in the style of the artist Faith Ringgold, that's her. The book Tar Beach began as a painting on fabric that's behind the artist. That was depicting Ms. Ringgold's life growing up in 1930s Harlem. Each student created a square depicting something about their own lives, and the squares were combined to create an individual story quilt for each class. And the focus was on both identity and diversity.
So in the music classroom, we did a project where we had students share a song from home, like share a favorite song. And one of my students sang and performed the beautiful Spanish lullaby, Los Pollitos. And this folk song is sung, I actually found out, by many of our families here in Portland who speak Spanish. And this made it a really good addition for our first grade concert. So the past couple of years I've done this as a concert song. So to help the students learn the words to the song, they create a storybook that is depicting the plot, so the verbs and the characters, so the nouns. So that's what we've done in the past. This year we're actually going to be illustrating certain parts of the words, so they'll be illustrating their own pictures instead of just coloring this year. So that'll be a fun project we're going to do like this week and the next 2 weeks. But this is an example of culturally responsive teaching because we organically added the diverse voices of our students into the day-to-day activities in our classroom. So, and since we've added this song, I've had a lot of families and children tell me that they were very excited to hear this song in the concert because it's a song that's very special to them, and they thought it was really special because their grandparents sang it to them as little kids, or their mothers or fathers sang it to them as children, and they thought it was really special to hear their kids learning it in Spanish and sharing it at home and at school too. So this helps our students see themselves in our diverse community here in Portland. Thanks. So those are the lyrics. They really like it.
What does the word include mean?
It means letting a friend include in everything.
Very good. What does your picture show us about inclusion?
This is me when my friends Aria go on the swim.
Very nice. You guys say just swings for her? And how does, when you include somebody, how does it make you feel?
Good.
Awesome. What does the word include mean?
Including someone to play with you.
Very good. How does it make you feel when you include others? Can you show me what your picture is about? Can you tell me about it? Very nice. What does the word include mean?
It means let someone play.
How does it make you feel when you include others?
Happy.
Why?
It's fun playing with others.
Very nice. Can you tell me about your picture?
This is me, that's Ben, that's Shoes, are playing soccer. That's their net, that's our goal. And I let Chris play, and I let him play because we had to have even teams. And then we had 2 against 1, and then Chris went to play, and it was 2 against 2.
Very nice. Thank you.
This was in my classroom, and I think it just demonstrates how we start at the most basic level. And how we're really just teaching this vocabulary to students and showing them that, you know, it makes them feel good by including others and by recognizing that, you know, we live in a society where we want to be kind. So, very basic.
And then this is a bulletin board that we did at the end of last year with Jill Zeno, that we will do again this year in kindergarten. And we read a lot of books around like what makes our skin the color that it is. And like we teach them the melanin and ancestors and the sun. And then they do, she took pictures of their actual hands, and then they got to pick what it looked like. And then it was a beautiful bulletin board.
I'm just going to add too, so in library, the students will always come into library and they're really excited about getting the books that the teachers have read, and we were trying to diversify our collection as well. So we're using, we have a birthday book club in Valley View where the parents can choose to donate books to the library. We take a picture and they get to be up on the wall and everything. So we've used some of the parents too to get involved, to recommend books, but also the kids, the ones that they're favorite, and we put them in the library and they're taken out all the time. And then we're really excited because Peter Reynolds, who is really a very famous author, is coming to Valley View next Monday, so we're excited. We work with RJ Julia with that partnership with them. They're right down the road, so it's awesome, and we're really excited to be able to, the kids are like, he wrote the word collector. I mean, they can't even get over it, so they're really excited about that opportunity coming to Valley View as well.
Okay, well, thank you.
So awesome.
This is awesome, and it's the next level from the character education stuff that we did when I was there. And it's so great to see all of you embracing this and putting it into your curriculum. I can't say enough good things about it. And I'm glad to see all the specials involved. That's always, you know, a little bit manageable or hard to manage sometimes, but I think including everybody is really important. It sounds like it's a whole school-wide. I hope you guys will take this and do something at the library convention in the fall. I think this is, you could take this on the road. I mean, this is good. It really is good, and I think you should, because a lot of people are struggling with what to do in the classroom and how to and do a whole curriculum. Are there any other questions? I don't mean to, you guys, I love you guys. I love libraries, I love books. I think this is just awesome. But any other questions, Kim, Tim?
I commend you all. You definitely are doing a fantastic job. Really impressive.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And Jill Zano was great. She met with me on her own time and went over like how to extend it into first grade, because they didn't even really have a curriculum that extended into first grade. So she's like, here's the ideas. This is where we started. This is where you could kind of go. And then we've just kind of gone with it on our own. But she was an amazing resource. And
So I do have a question, and I don't know if you have the answer, Charles, you know, and I know in other districts around, what happened to that position, Jill's position, and why isn't that still continuing? I know it was through the choice program.
Which position? I'm sorry.
for the craft.
Yeah, she did come to us through open choice, and I think
it has to do with the number of kindergarten students,
yeah.
specifically, because she came to kindergarten
Yeah.
only.
Okay.
Okay, well, Craig is a wonderful resource as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there any plan to extend this now to a third grade? Is there any?
So every school has a equity-based
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
So we have our district-wide coalition. I know Tim has been involved. And then every school has their own
Has their own.
equity leadership. So every school has their own projects that they're working on.
That they're working on. Okay, well, we'll hope to hear from the upper elementary grades as well, but this is amazing. And it's just telling that, you know, the impact that you're having, reading the books, looking at the authors, looking at the words, and then having them actually put it into their own words. Amazing. Great job. Any other questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, lost in thought there for a minute. Really an amazing job that they're doing. Student representative reports. Do we have our student reps? Lisa and, not Lisa. Yes, hello there. I'm going to call you Lisa.
Hi.
Hi there.
Dorothy couldn't make it today, but I'm here.
Oh, good. Well, great. Okay. What have you got for us? Good evening.
So a few weeks ago, seniors had their senior trip to New York City. We went ice skating, watched a Broadway musical, and ate dinner at Hard Rock Cafe. Last Wednesday was capstone night, where seniors presented their capstone projects to a panel of teachers. And spring sports are starting up at the end of March. This year that includes baseball, track and field, tennis, golf, softball, and unified sports. And the spring production of Once Upon a Mattress will be on March 17th at 7 p.m. and March 18th at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Do you know if there are any tickets left, or are they still selling them through the online, or can you buy them at the door? Do you have any information?
Yeah, I know that they're selling them online, and I believe you can still buy them at the door.
Okay, perfect.
Yes,
Well, we hope.
and yes.
Oh, yes, and yes. Okay, good. Hopefully, all our
Let's not get any rumors started that they're
right,
sold out.
right. All right, that's it. And seniors, I guess, are looking at acceptance letters and getting excited about where they're going to be next year. Is that true? Yes? Starting to hear from colleges, and hopefully we'll hear where everybody's going to end up, one way or the other. All right, sounds good. Any questions for our student rep? All right, well, thank you. Good report. Thanks very much. All right. And moving on, we have communications and updates from the superintendent.
So, let me start with a few communications from you. We have had 2 resignations to share with you. So, we wish Angela Bird, who's a paraprofessional at Gildersleeve, all the best of luck. She's decided to further her career and move along. Her last day is going to be with us March 10th. So it's coming right up. Wish her all the best. Also, a resignation from Amanda Halpin, who's a special education teacher at Gildersleeve. She's going to be with us to the end of the year. I know her says effective June 13th. We have had 1 snow day, so I imagine it would be the last day of school that day. I think it's 1 day later than that. So we wish Amanda all the best of luck in her future career endeavors as well. I also did include in your report the enrollment update. So let me pause for a moment and see if you have any questions about our numbers are remarkably stable from the beginning of the year till now. Not a lot of movement in or out. Any questions about enrollment update?
No.
Okay. So a couple of things I did share with you earlier today. I had some, it always seems like it works out that the day or 2 before a board meeting I get deluged with additional information. So I always feel like I'm kind of pulling it together, you know, the day of. So I did share with you some information today that I'll go through with you to see if there are any questions. But let's start with something nice. I want to start with recognizing the fact that March is Board of Education Appreciation Month. So I hope you all pick up the next edition of the River East. I will share that I put something in there to recognize all of your hard work. This is a remarkable board, and of course, you know, while I think what I've shared recognizes you all, this extends to all boards of education in the state. I mean, I think that the reason Connecticut public schools are really so outstanding is a function of citizens like you who step up to do the work that you do. You're a really solid group. I'm very proud to serve you. You're great people. You do have a present there for you. That is all Tricia. So Tricia reminded me that it was Board of Education Month and went out and found these little trinkets for you. So thank you, Tricia. That was really nice and a nice touch and well deserved.
Thank you, Tricia.
Thank you.
So let's start with the nice and the recognition. So do pick up the River East, and I want to thank Eric. He helped me craft the message there, and I think you'll see it in the next edition. Okay. I did receive an indication, Stephanie and I received an indication that the budget has been modified slightly. Okay, so I included with you a document titled Proposed Town of Portland, Connecticut Board of Education Expenditure Budget Summary. You'll note that we had presented, the board had adopted a budget at 3.98% increase. That has been reduced slightly, 77,000 reduction, to now reflect a 3.64% increase. So that was a decision that the first selectman made. I did speak with Ryan about it today. He indicated that the number he came up with there, that 77,000, is, if you'll remember, the insurance savings.
Right.
So what we had suggested was the original budget Stephanie and I brought forward had a placeholder of 4% and we were, we thought we were maybe being a little hopeful with that. But we were, of course, delighted to find that the real number came in at 3%, and the difference between 3 and 4% is roughly $77,600 or so. So what I had asked is that we not cut that originally, and that we keep, take out of the cuts a sort of TBD placeholder position reduction. Right? So At this point, the cut's reasonable, we'll be able to absorb it. Stephanie and I spoke about this today. I don't think tonight I'm ready to make any recommendations to you about where that cut's gonna come from. It's too early, right? And we also have, as you know, next week, we have our budget, town meeting is coming up, we have our workshop with the Board of Selectmen, and of course, we have to get out to the voters. Let's let the dust settle a little bit. If this is the only cut we have to absorb, and certainly I hope and pray that it is, we'll land on our feet. I think we'll be okay. I mean, that $77,000 in a $23 million budget is very manageable. But let's not make any decisions about it right now. Let's wait and see how this plays out through the spring and what ends up going forward to the voters before I bring with you any kind of mitigation strategies to identify where that cut would come from. Does that sound reasonable at this point?
I think it
I
is.
just have,
think.
just have a question. Because the budget that the board approved, this was like a built-in cushion. It was a savings. When the board approved the budget, the expectation was that $77,000 more were going to be spent than turned out to be necessary because we had savings. So that money was unspent. So I don't understand why it would be difficult to say where it would come from because it was not in the original budget. There was no $77,000 worth of spending when the board approved the budget. That was really an overage.
No, not exactly. So what we had, when Steph and I put the budget forward to you at 3.98%, if you remember, we identified all of the cuts that we made to get to that 3.98%. One of the cuts that we had identified was a certified classroom teaching position that we identified as TBD, right? We put it in there as Stephanie generally budgets masters step 5 at that number, thereabouts 77,000. It actually kind of worked out so we had said we're gonna reduce, in addition to the certified positions that we've already reduced, the math teaching position from the high school, the reduction in the art position at the high school, we said we were gonna reduce an additional one, right? That was a cut and as part of the 3.98% that was approved. So when we got, so there was that cut, and then there was 4% placeholder for the insurance. When the placeholder for the insurance was adjusted from 4 to 3, right, that netted us 77,000. My recommendation was we could either take that out or we could leave the TBD teaching position, put it back in. So what Stephanie really did is she took that number, 77,000, out of the benefits line and ledgered it back to the certified salaries line so that we don't have to cut that additional teaching position.
Okay, but since we already had made a decision that was something that could be cut, wouldn't it make sense that is the one that would then be cut?
It could be.
We wouldn't need to, because it just feels like we're going to need to now dig into the budget and search for other things that could be more impactful, that would be painful to the district more so than something that had already been kind of assumed that we're probably not going to be able to have this.
Right, and that's
so it was really a windfall.
Well, that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
We know that we have to cut $77,000 from somewhere. We've already said to you that one of the places we can do that is cut a teacher, but not identify what that teaching position is yet, right? For example, the reason I wouldn't identify it now is kindergarten enrollment is going on. We know we have 5 teaching positions identified for kindergarten. We could need 6, or we could need 4, right? So that's why it's kind of as a TBD, like it's sort of a placeholder. We know we have to cut it. Now, I may come back to you and say, I'll give you another example. Hopefully, we're going to hear Stephanie's report tonight, and I think she's going to share with us that we're in a good place in the budget, that we've clawed our way back from the deficits we were looking at in the fall and early winter, and now are on a better, more fiscally sustainable track. It's a function of some hiring that we've done and some grants that we've received. If, for example, we end the year with a surplus, fingers crossed, right? Warm winter, heating fuel prices are okay. Stephanie's going to tell us about that. So let's say we end the year with some end-of-year savings. And I'm not prepared to say if that's going to happen yet. it's only March, right?
Right.
But if we landed with a, let's just say, $75,000 surplus, right? Well, one, we wouldn't necessarily have to put it to the lunch fund account, because free lunches for the rest of the year, which is gonna be a part of my next report, that we might then be able to use that to purchase supplies and equipment that we have budgeted for next year. There's the 77,000. Potentially, right? So I guess what, all of this has to, I think right now, I don't wanna say it's going to be this. I think what I'm saying is, there's still too many moving pieces. 77,000 is a reasonable thing to manage in the overall $23 million budget, but I'm not ready to say right now what it is, because we don't know what the exact number is gonna be yet.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good explanation, and I think we do have all those variables that we're still, you know, we don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, kind of thing. All right,
Are we
so.
buying chickens? Is that in the budget? I don't think I saw that in the budget.
I hope
think-
not.
Well, so so,
Yep, keep
and again,
going. Yep.
you're gonna hear Stephanie's report tonight. Obviously, we're minding the till very carefully, but certainly we know now that we have to absorb that 77, and the new number is the 3.64.
3.6.
But I did want to give you a sense of how where that 77 came from. Like
Yeah.
what was, it wasn't just like a pull it out of a random place. It was that difference in the 1% between what we projected and what we got.
Projected what we got, okay. All right.
All right, so as you know, and I'm happy to report that we are, again, serving students free breakfast and free lunch from now till the end of the year. I thought you'd be interested in some data on that. So I included tonight a look at the difference between how many lunches and breakfasts we were serving each day on average when they were free, compared to this short period of time, as we know, from January 1 until March 1, when we moved back to pay. Right? So I thought you would find that interesting. We went from an average of 755 lunches per day down to 517 when we started charging for them again, and from 275 breakfasts down to 158. So again, that's just a snapshot. They figured it was interesting data for you to see. But again, we are back to free lunches, and we will continue to offer free breakfast and lunch from now until the end of the year. Beyond that,
makes sense, because you're still giving free meals for the first quarter of the year to some of the students they have, right?
so you mean students who are on free and reduced
Yes.
price meals? Yes.
So that's not included in this number?
The free and reduced price meals would be included in that number.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Again, interesting data. It will have an effect, of course, on our school lunch fund balance, which is something we often, at the end of the year, transfer funds into to keep up with our obligations to provide those meals per student.
Which is the second question, why would it have an impact? Because we're getting paid from the federal government for the free of last year and anything going forward free. So why would we save any money?
Well, last year was free, right?
Yeah.
We're getting paid for all the meals, but we didn't spend anything before because the free and reduced was being subsidized by the federal government.
Right, but
And the paid were being paid by the students. So
But we
we're-
still have to pay all our operating income. We still have to, our operating budget, we have to pay for Sodexo, we have to pay for the food, the products, we still have to pay for all the items. And when students pay, because it fell short of what we were getting, so we weren't getting reimbursed as much. So that's where I think when I looked at it last, our income statement, we're still in the positive, but it's cutting down little by little because our expenses are way more than what we're bringing in right now, or were, because of the reduction of paid meals. Because yes, we still do get reimbursed for the free and reduced, for the free and the reduced, but not the paid. Now students are paying, they pay less than what we get reimbursed, so there's a difference between that, and then less people are buying.
Oh, so we're charging less than it costs to make the meal.
Correct.
Could John give us the free and reduced for January through March 1st? Just out of curiosity, in other words.
The number of students?
Yeah, the number of students, because that would offset, in other words, there were free and reduced lunches and
Correct.
breakfast being given.
Yes.
Because
So
we
actually,
were-
how many were truly paid out of that?
Right, right. I think that would also, that might explain that number a little bit better.
Oh, that's what
If we
this,
can do that.
isn't that what this is?
Well, that's the total number
No, it
of
says
free
paid meals versus free meals.
Right. But from January 1st to March the 1st, we went back to the old way of having free and reduced meals for some students and then paid for the ones who
Yeah,
were
we
not
can get to the
qualified.
difference. We'll get to the
Yeah, I
delta.
think that would be,
Yeah.
because I know that was a big topic when we went to the hearing.
Well, this says January through February 17th.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, just that short window when we were back to paid.
And I guess our fingers are crossed that that might continue into next year as well, but we don't know where that's going to end up.
We'll see where that ends up, or,
Yep.
whether, it.
Yep, to be continued.
What I'm surprised is the breakfast is so low. I figured that was an important meal, and when it was free, we had such a low participation.
I don't know if I can comment on that.
Yeah, I'm just curious,
Those are the numbers.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
entirely
yeah,
sure
yeah.
why more students are taking lunch over breakfast.
Yeah.
Kids
Well,
eat before they come in, or?
Some of it might just
Well,
be
the numbers
timing,
too, I
to
mean,
be honest,
you're
like
doing
are
a
they here in the
daily
morning?
average based on September, October, November, just 4 months versus
A month and a half.
a month and a half.
Right, that's
So
it.
it really, how valid is that
Yeah, well,
comparison?
it's a daily average.
Well, it is, but it's daily average over a 4-month period versus daily average. So
Correct.
there's a lot of other variables that can impact that you don't.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And, averages are subject to change.
There's, yeah.
It's an interesting statistic.
But it's still, it is.
So that's more for an FYI, but certainly, we're back to the free lunches for the rest of the year and free breakfast for the rest of the year, and that will influence, some decisions we have to make at the end of the year about where we might make end-of-year transfers. Okay, and again, another more just an FYI that I included in there. I received this 50-page report, and Dave just asked me before, could you give me the crib notes of it?
Yeah,
Those
I want
are
the
crib
executive
notes.
summary.
Like, that is the summary. If you imagine each one of those 50-page sort of bullets there encompasses many volumes of reams of legislation. I could bring in the whole stack of law books that I have, right? But I got that, and it's just eye-opening, right? It's just really, really, interesting. I understand that all organizations are heavily regulated, but we are a very, very heavily regulated organization, and I've been reading through them, and I'm feeling very good as I'm reading through. Go, yeah, we do that. Oh, yeah, we do that. We're good. Yeah, every now and then I get to one where I'm like, maybe I should check on that, but we're good. We got this, and of course, if we ever have any questions, our ace in the hole is always Rebecca, who is amazing. But again, this is just an informational thing. I thought you might be interested in seeing all of the things that reflect the mandates that we operate under. And I appreciate that Shipman and Goodwin puts it together and Cap puts it out. It's good reminders and also, help makes the draw hit the desk a little bit every now and then as you realize the, I guess, lack of actual things how much room we actually have to operate versus what is subject to state statute.
Was it relatively chronological in order of acts passed?
Those are actually, believe it or not, a summary of the acts passed since 2015.
But is it largely chronological?
I don't
It's
think
not,
it-
it's not, it's numerical.
Yeah, it doesn't-
It's not, yeah.
Study that and get back to us on
Um,
No, please don't spend time doing that.
Cade does have some documents by the year of, just what was passed in the last legislative session,
Okay.
or the one before that, or the one before that. But it's overwhelming, and these are all mandated or amended mandates, and I know anytime that I've had a chance to go up to a hearing, I say, look at what you've done and make sure that we're, not adding more layers of stuff onto things that are already working really well.
Right.
And, but the legislature changes and people get voted in and they leave, and so here we are. And they're busy. They're busy again this year.
And of course, the other thing that we get, which aligns perfectly to this, is the monthly CABE policy update. So our policies always reflect these statutes, that we keep our policy books up to date and make sure that we are following the law.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Then the last thing I have for you is something personal that I'm excited about, and I just thought I'd let you know. I have been invited to participate on a New England Association of Schools and Colleges collaborating committee to go visit Westport High School on April 20th and 21st. Right? I'm really excited to do it because you'll be hearing a lot about NEASNC and accreditation because the high school here in Portland is on deck soon. Right? So,
What year is that going to happen?
yeah, so it's different now.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
the NESNC changed the way they do things. They used to do one decennial visit. Once every 10 years, they came around, and then there was a 2-year, 5-year, 7-year process of writing reports and self-reflections.
Yep.
Now the way they do it is they do a collaborating conference where you get a visit, they come in and you write a report for it, and you give them information, and then they give you initial feedback that you use to drive some school improvement, and then they come back again. Right? So you do, it's a 2-visit. It's a collaborating conference and then a full site visit. Portland High School's collaborating conference visit, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, is either next spring or the fall after. Right? So it's.
So 2024?
What's that? Yeah, we believe it's going to, we haven't been given the exact date yet, but just those two times, it's either going to be next spring or next fall. That's what I'm doing in April. So I'm happy to go do that, and I know Kate Lawson has done a couple of these. It's great professional learning anyway, but it's also a really good opportunity for me to see what's coming in terms of our accreditation at the high school in the next 2 to 4 years or so, beyond that one collaborating first conference.
Okay.
So I'll keep you posted, let you know how it goes, and bring back hopefully some new learning.
Yeah, I'm just interested to hear what the change is, because I know I lived through a couple of those, and it's a huge amount of work.
Huge amount of work.
Yep.
Yeah, it will be the high school's, well, it'll take up their entire professional development calendar an awful lot of time. But it's very healthy, a very good thing to do, to be reflective, use their standards, which I think are excellent, to identify areas of strength and weakness, or strengthen areas for development, and then identify a vision for your teaching and learning program going forward.
Okay.
I believe in the NASNC. I think it's a good organization, and you get valuable feedback out of them.
Yeah.
They're not cheap, but
Yep, no, I think that's
it's
good. Well,
expensive.
congratulations, and have some fun, and brings back some good ideas, too.
Thank you. Yeah,
All right.
we'll do that.
All right, great.
That's everything.
Is that it for?
Yep, that's
All
everything.
right, good. All right, so under new business, or under the communications and updates, we have the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Financial Affairs. Stephanie, you're on deck.
So, the report given is through March 3rd, but I'll say that's about 8 months into the fiscal year. Like I say every time, we're at about 34% left, so when you look at the far right column, in comparison to 34%, that's kind of where we're at. Bottom line, 22% remaining. I have to take into account, I did not journal in excess cost yet, which we found out, hopefully, I think the bill passed, that we are going to get 88% now and not the 73 that we thought. So we're going to have additional funding with that. Open choice, we received our first payment. We still don't know if we get the additional classes, the kindergarten payment. That's usually within the next couple of weeks I'll get that payment. Our Hartford reimbursement that we get. This year we have seven students that are in special ed services, and it's going to be about $304,000 that Hartford is going to be paying us for the services that we pay for, and then Medicaid. So I just looked on my phone quick because I can get my spreadsheets, and in total, the amount of money that I'm waiting to come in is about $1.5 million between Hartford, excess cost, open choice, Medicaid, and the portion of the mental health grant, because if you remember, we were already accounting for one of the salaries under ESSER, so it was already in my federal money, so it's really just the benefits piece of it now, so we'll get that additional funding that was unanticipated. And then the 4 paras that I was able to move into the ESSER now that we were able to use the mental health grant. So that truly helped us, I think, get to where we are now. right now I am showing that we will have a surplus, but, you know, we're still waiting on, you know, the transportation gas bills. They're only through January right now. We're still paying for heating. Bob said he was gonna try, because he was able to finally get a good read on the oil tank. So switch over the high school to burn some oil to try and have some savings there. But there's still some facility needs, you know, I try to do a projection with how much, you know, the schools have left to spend, because obviously we have graduation left, and, you know, the high school will be the bulk of, you know, remaining of their budget. But facilities, I have to leave a kind of a buffer in there with, God forbid something happens. We do have Fund 11. Charles and I and Bob are supposed to meet at some point to go over projects we may have, to see where we are in Fund 11. And then as we get closer to the end of the year, that's when we can decide, one, depending on how next year's budget turns out, if we're gonna do a transfer, or if we have to purchase supplies. But as of right now, we're doing okay.
Good, all right, well, that's good news.
Question.
Any questions?
I
Yes,
do,
Tim.
just to clarify what you had said, so this says total available is the 5 million, which is 22.5, but then you said there's potentially 1.5 million outstanding. So do you add that 5 million, 1.5 million to come up with, okay.
But then we still obviously have to spend.
No,
for the rest of
I understand.
Yep.
It's a net, we're not gonna net 1.5 million from that, is that the?
We're gonna, so add another 1.5 million onto that, onto the 5.
Onto the 5.
Right.
So there's like 6.5 million
Right.
available.
Okay, thank you.
I guess saying this a different way, because it's a little confusing, because the budget's a budget, no matter what the revenue is. So what's the shortfall on the budget, and what is the revenue coming in above what you expected? I'd like to see those two numbers as we go forward, because that's a clearer picture of how we actually are.
The real way to see that is to look at my state report that I do at the end of each year, the EFS report, because that takes into account all the federal funding we get, all the state funding we get. Because when you look at it, you know, our budget was last year 21 million, whatever it was. Our expenses were 24 million, and that's how you get your net pupil expenditure, because it's based off of your total spent. So that's really the best way to see between the budget and the actual expenses that came in. Because really, we don't, I guess you could look at the revenue, because if you look at the budget book, the town does take into account excess costs. They take into account, I don't know if they take into account, because they don't know what grants we're gonna get at the time. So it really truly is additional revenue that we're getting.
Because if you say, hey, we come in flat, yet we exceed our budget by 400,000, but we got 400,000 of extra revenue, and we all think we did a great job, but technically we didn't.
Well, that's why once ESSER goes away, and once the mental health grant goes away, and once the SIG grant goes away, then yes, that's when we're.
That's exactly right.
That's when we're in a bind.
That's exactly.
And that's the cliff, basically.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Did they answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Any other questions? Hearing none, okay, we can move on. Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology report. Eric, please come to the podium. Good evening.
Hi.
All right.
So I'm going to start off just quickly with a couple things that aren't in my report. So the last time I was at the podium, we were in the process of asking you to approve a cybersecurity course at the high school, which you did approve, thank you. We offered that through course registration, and Dylan told me preliminary results are in, and we have 20 students signed up for the course. And we're not all the way through course registration, so perhaps more to come. We may be able to offer a second section of that next year. So kudos to the board, and we're thrilled to be offering something that obviously is meeting a student want and a student need. The second thing I'd like to touch on really quick is just to harken back to the presentation that the Valley View teachers did today. I met them on the way out just to express my gratitude to them. So I'll talk a little bit about equity from the district coalition side of things in my report a little bit later on, but Megan Campbell referenced school-based equity leadership teams functioning in each building. So equity is a massive challenge. Oftentimes, the best work we can do as educators is to give our teachers a challenge and to get out of the way. And The equity committee, Jessica Bruin is a part of it at Valley View, but the equity read-alouds were really a teacher-sourced solution. And it was just obviously inspiring to see what that work means for kids, and the moral compass that we're helping our students to develop at that very young age, centered around things like inclusion and acknowledging difference and celebrating difference and what makes us unique. You know, we've been talking a lot lately about diversity in Portland, and there's a little bit of a myth that Portland is not a diverse place. About 30% of our students and families identify as students and families of color. So it's really about mining that diversity, tapping into who we are, and making sure that we're allowing students to feel, you know, we say seen, heard, and valued, but to really feel represented in our curriculum and the types of texts that we're putting before them and the types of stories we tell, that those stories are their stories or shared stories. We can think of equity as kind of three things as they occur in education. Representation, right? You want to feel that you're represented. You see yourself in an academic setting, in places of success. You see your identity represented, and that empowers you to feel like you can get there too. Selection, right? So when we are selecting students for honors or accolades or opportunities, do those selections represent inclusion? Do they represent the fullness of our student body? And then expectations. Are we maintaining high expectations for all learners? And as a matter of equity, not lowering our expectations or lowering the bar for certain learners, but creating more ladders or scaffolds for students to reach those high expectations as they need. And I think the work you saw tonight hits right at the heart of representation, and it's allowing our students to see themselves able to meet our high expectations because they're represented in our community and our academics. So just a really inspired and thankful to the work of Valley View teachers and the equity work that's happening across our buildings. I'm going to dig into the report. So you saw at the very top, Board of Education Appreciation Month, thank you. I thank you for the expectations, or as I term it, the positive pressure you put on us to do the best we can for students and families. Then, of course, along the lines of those high expectations or positive pressure, the support and resources you provide us. And you do all of this out of a spirit of volunteerism, so that's recognized and it's appreciated. And more to come in the River East, as Dr. Britton had intimated. I next linked a agenda from our recent February 17th full district-wide professional development day, and the upcoming agenda for this Friday's March 10th full district professional development day. This Friday's date is our last full district PD day of the year. Just really thankful and proud of the work that our teachers have continued to do in advancing our curriculum, seizing professional learning opportunities. On February 17th, we provided all of our teachers a difficult yet mandatory training on human trafficking. It was a heavy way to end a Friday. Our teachers were fully engaged. I think they understood the importance of that training. They had a lot of good questions for our presenter, and it underscores, you know, their commitment to keeping our schools safe, our students safe. This Friday, we're showing a film that I referenced in the agenda called Most Likely to Succeed. We're doing work adopting a vision of a graduate, which creates a roadmap to, we have to stop calling them 21st century skills because we're in the 21st century, but modern skills are what are termed soft skills, or what we might consider cross-curricular skills that speak to what employers are looking for most in college graduates and high school graduates, and what's considered career readiness. And that film really meshes with this idea of moving education in a modernized context. We're excited to show it to our teachers, to push their thinking and to allow them to imagine possibilities that that film suggests and how those possibilities might be actualized within our school district. So I invite board members, if you're able, to come view the film. If not, it is available on Amazon Prime. It's $3.99 to rent. It's a really captivating watch. It was first released in 2015. It remains of highest relevance today and aligns beautifully to the work that we're doing with our vision of the graduate and creating a modernized curriculum. I also noted here, very excited, we just received 370 Chromebook devices. So we have been waiting on these for over a year. A lot of bureaucratic red tape. When the red tape was cleared and we were approved to go and purchase the specific models we had requested, those models were no longer available, so it took a little bit of reshuffling, going back, finding a comparable model. We did that. They're in hand. Our IT team is getting all those devices set up now. We'll be rolling them out, and as I intimated in my report, that'll allow us to retire even more of our oldest paperweight devices. So we won't have, we'll be lucky if we have comparable grants come to us in the future, but we have taken full advantage of every grant opportunity that has come our way to support our replenishment cycle on these 370 latest devices. Are a continued representation of that. I'll just kind of buzz through a couple other things, and then I'll stop and take any questions about anything I didn't speak to. So wellness committee, or wellness policy rather. I think this policy is now going through policy committee. We needed to ensure through the work of our PE and health teachers that we were covering mandated health topics within our pre-K-12 curriculum. We had our PE health teachers gather for what we call a release day or a non-teaching day yesterday to do some curriculum work. Dr. Britton stopped in. We performed an audit with our health teachers yesterday of those mandatory topics, and I won't say discovered, but confirmed to our pleasure and our hopeful expectation that we are in alignment with state mandates for health education. It's not to say that we can't always look to strengthen and improve the ways we teach health education, and we are doing that, but we've met the minimum threshold for state requirements, and that'll be reflected in the policy that comes before the committee. Just a couple other things. Kind of zooming in on our February 17th PD Day. We're a small district, so wherever, whenever we are able to collaborate with our neighboring districts, leaves us in great stead to make regional decisions, to save a little bit of money, to team up for things like professional learning. On February 17th, we worked with our colleagues from Middletown, East Hampton, and Cromwell Public Schools to set up a shared space at the former Kegwin Middle School in Middletown. And in that space, our colleagues from MPS had filled up a room with vendor materials from each of the state's 7 approved curriculum programs for K-3 literacy. And we know that we're going to need to adopt one of these programs beginning for the fall of 2024. So kind of like in the same spirit of what I said of our Valley View teachers, sometimes the best thing we can do as leaders is give our teachers a charge and get out of the way. We gave our teachers the charge on the 17th, come to Kegwin. We created some structured groups, some feedback forms. We said, put your hands on these materials, tell us what you like, what you don't like, which ones you're most excited about. They gave us a tremendous amount of feedback. Like, their excitement level was off the charts, which on a PD day is really exciting. The feedback was awesome. We're now in the process of forming a K-3 literacy curriculum committee comprised largely of teachers to comb through that feedback, to narrow 7 programs down to 2 or 3 that we call in vendors for, receive more specific information about, with the goal of hopefully by the end of the year selecting a program so that next year we can create some structured pilot opportunities of that program for our teachers, work all year to secure any grant funding that may be accessible to help defray cost, and just prepare ourselves in all ways and prepare our teachers in all ways for a successful full implementation beginning in the 24-25 school year. So our teachers really did a tremendous job, and I'm so grateful for our colleagues in Middletown for availing that opportunity to us. So that takes me, I just wanted to hit on one other thing. So last night we met as an equity coalition for the first time since we took a strategic pause after our November meeting. We'd seen some declining attendance. We'd heard some feedback from members that we kind of needed to pause, regroup, refocus. So we spent the past couple months gathering feedback and planning for a successful relaunch. We had a small crew of people there, but we made some important changes to how we facilitate meetings. The feedback was really good, and I think of most inspiration is a continued commitment to the work And we also considered a lot of possibilities. We're struggling to get student voices into that room. And there's some logistical reasons. Our meetings run from 4 to 6 p.m. That conflicts with student schedules. Asking students to stay after school for a meeting that doesn't start until 4, which suits our adult participants' schedules, creates a challenge. But we really spent a good amount of time last night brainstorming different ways to get student voices into the room and into the work if we can't physically get students into the room. And we came up with some great possibilities, because at the end of the day, everything we're doing for equity is for the benefit of students. And so we need to hear from them, and we need to tailor our work to what they're telling us matters most. And I was excited at some of the possibilities that we came up with last night that I look forward to sharing with the board in future reports. So I'll end it there and take any questions on anything I discussed or didn't hit on that's in my report or otherwise.
Any questions from this side of the table? No? And will the curriculum committee will the board curriculum committee be meeting and also talking about some of this reading?
We will, yeah. So it's going to take a little bit of time for that literacy committee to form, to comb through that feedback and to develop suggestions that will then be presenting before the board curriculum subcommittee. Okay. I did want to touch on one other thing that you may hear some rumblings about. So we are engaged in a strategic review of our world language offerings at the middle and high school. We've seen some declining enrollments in our French courses, and we've had difficulty obtaining certified French instructors. So we saw it as an opportunity to query our community as to what types of languages they would like to see offered in Portland Public Schools. I just sent out that survey today. Like instantly, I had 100 responses. At last check, we are up to over 180 responses. So this is an issue that our community cares deeply about. We'll be bringing some of that feedback before the curriculum subcommittee and figuring out our next steps to take from there as we look to strengthen world language instruction across our schools. And one of the options that we included was American Sign Language. That is considered a foreign language for accreditation purposes.
Would the world language curriculum be moved down to the elementary school level at some point? Is that
so? Right now we offer world languages in grades 7 through 12. Right. We had a please leave any additional comments, and I can tell you there were numerous requests for increased world language offerings in our earlier grades. Of course, that's a personnel, resources, financial decision that the board will need to consider over time.
Okay. Any questions on this side of the table? All right, well, thank you. This is, again, comprehensive, and it looks like you've really done professional development in a good way. I love when you say, give the teachers the mandate to do something and then step out of the way and let them do it. Clearly, what we saw tonight was that for the Valley View group, and I only imagine that the rest of the district, the teachers are thrilled to be able to have that opportunity to operate in the best practices that they know with your guidance. So thank you. Appreciate it, really.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you. All right, so moving on, we are now at some new business. We are going to be going into executive session to talk about an RFP award to ESS for substitute staffing. And there is a mandate, not a mandate, a memorandum of understanding for extracurricular stipends, which will also be discussed in executive session. There is no old business to discuss, so we're moving on to committee reports. Curriculum?
So we haven't had, Eric, when was our last meeting? We're scheduled next, is it next?
Sorry, this is so loud.
I know, I'm sorry, curriculum.
Our next meeting is March 22nd. We hold calendar dates as for a meeting as needed basis. We canceled the last one, we didn't have any pressing matters, but March 22nd we will.
And that's fine.
Thank
that
you.
Works. Yep. Policy is going to meet on we just changed it from the 15th to the 22nd at 1 o'clock, and we did get the packets of the wellness policy, so we'll be working on that, and that is huge. So that may take us a couple of meetings before we get get to read through all of it. But thank you, that the work was clearly done, and we're looking forward to reading it. Personnel.
We met since our last meeting to discuss the things that we're going to discuss in executive session, the substitute staffing services and MOU for extracurricular stipends, and we're going to put a placeholder in for a March, April meeting for any things that may arise.
Perfect, okay. Building and grounds has not met, but we may do that as we get closer to the end of this budget year and we see what the projects are going forward. So we'll look forward to another meeting sometime in the spring. The liaison to CREC, I will go to the Finance and Audit Committee tomorrow, and then CREC will meet on the 15th in Hartford. The next one is the Selectmen, Dave?
Nothing, they actually canceled their 3-1 meeting.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Committee on Solidarity.
I was going to look up and see. I attended one of their recent meetings, and then I think they had another one since then, and I had a conflict with another meeting. So it's a different group of folks than when I first got involved. So it's a whole new group, but they're working towards many of the same goals and looking at opportunities in the community to have events, and they're considering another survey. They're looking at the survey that was done previously and seeing if if it's worth their while to do another one and to maybe piggyback on some of the stuff they found from the original survey.
Okay, all right, good. So that's always a good thing to find out whether or not they're being effective, so surveys are helpful. The Equity and Inclusion Coalition.
Well, as Eric said,
met
I don't know,
last
did
night.
you go?
Neither of us were able to attend.
Yeah, unfortunately, and Eric, I told Eric this, I realized I only put it in the survey he sent out, but if they switched and they stayed with the first Monday of the month schedule, I'm never going to be able to go.
We're actually we're gonna move it to the second. We checked last night.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Second Monday, okay.
And just, we now move to an every other month meeting schedule.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, then, well, there'll be minutes from last night's meeting or something, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing with that, and, but that Eric's update that he provided, I think is sufficient.
That's really exciting to hear that you're coming together, and student voice always is going to be important. So we'll look forward to hearing more on that line.
And May 8th will be the next meeting.
It is.
What is it again?
May 8th.
May 8th, thank you.
Perfect, all right, thanks. We'll make a note of that. School Facility Study Committee meeting. We met last night. It was very productive. We had the first selectman, Ryan Curley, was there, which added another layer of information that we are gathering. No decision yet, but we're close, and there's a lot of information that just needs to be digested. So I would imagine on April the 3rd, that's our next meeting, we may come up with a plan and be ready to put that out to the public, or to at least to the Board of Education. Youth Services Advisory Board, there is no liaison right now. I know Jesse Rivicki is very busy and working with LGBTQ plus activities and a wellness and prevention activity. That is moving right along. Audience of citizens, is there anybody else that would like to talk to us tonight? Not at this time. Okay. Well, Board of Education member comments. I'll start it down with Stacy.
Just thank you for the nice gift and recognition. Thank you, Tricia.
I'll add the two resignations, Angela Bird and Amanda Halpin, are people that I've worked. Yeah.
Oh, there is.
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay. Are they on? Okay, so welcome to the Board of Ed, and could you state your name and address?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, my name is Colleen Scott. I'm at 100 Culver Lane.
Okay. And what would you like to tell us tonight?
Okay, so I just wanted to talk about the midterm and final exams. So I was shocked to learn that this administration is leaving our kids woefully unprepared for college by eliminating midterm and final exams. You may think that the midterms and finals are a waste of time or cause too much anxiety, But universities, community colleges, technical colleges, all have final exams. And our students will not be prepared to compete with students that did prepare in high school. I'm sure some of the students love this idea. I would have loved this idea when I was in high school, so I would not have had to study so hard. But some students are really scared that they won't be able to handle the challenges of college. And when I asked why this was, I was told that they cause too much stress and anxiety. And if you think we should coddle these kids because you don't want to cause stress and anxiety in this tiny Portland high school, what do you think will happen when they go to university or community college and are completely unprepared for the rigors of the higher learning? They will be told they have final exams and their anxiety will skyrocket. They will be competing with students who have been prepared for these exams. And I was also told that universities are moving away from finals. So I have a daughter that graduated last year and is a freshman at UConn. She graduated 10th in her class, got pretty much all A's throughout her high school. She studied and worked really hard. She was blown away at how difficult college was. She had finals in all of her classes, every single one. They were difficult and stressful, but she got through them and she survived. She has friends in universities all through Connecticut, Eastern, Southern, Central, Middlesex, and friends in Vermont, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Florida, and every single one had final exams in all of their core classes. So if you believe universities are in fact eliminating final exams, why are we not waiting until they actually move to this policy? Why are we eliminating midterms and finals before the universities do?
Okay. So, thank you for your comments. Obviously, we will not comment back to you, but it may be.
Yeah, I thought I had 3 minutes.
Do you have more to say? You can.
Yeah, no.
Oh, by all means, yes, okay.
Yeah, I just didn't share my video. I didn't see that thing come through.
Oh, that's
okay. Yeah. So I was just saying, like, why are we not actually waiting to move to this policy? Why are we moving to this policy prior to the universities moving to this policy? Why aren't we preparing our students? If you Google any random university calendar, you will see they all have dates for when final exams will be held. And then I was told that we're focusing on PSATs and SATs and preparing them for those tests. The one test that colleges might actually be moving away from. And the school system is supposed to be preparing our students to be successful in college. And in fact, they are being handicapped by the decisions of this administration and the Board of Ed. Studying is a skill. Doctors, lawyers, nurses, accountants, actuaries, and as teachers all have to take cumulative exams to practice their profession. If they're so archaic, why do professionals need to take them? And why do teachers need to take them? And I think the dumbing down of the students at Portland High by eliminating midterm and finals is not helping them gain access to be successful after Portland. And this decision will impact their entire lives. They may fail out of college because the rigors are too great and they did not develop the coping skills in high school that prepare them for higher levels of achievement. If they don't go to college, they might find it difficult to hold down the job because they never learn to deal with stress. This policy is short-sighted and they'll concede whether they go to college or not. And even if you truly believe that midterm and finals are a waste of time and of student resources, the fact that they still need to take them in college and be prepared at a much higher level should make you take a hard look at this policy. Now I'm done.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were finished. Oh, and there you are. If you have, it sounds like you have a written statement. If you'd like to send that to the Board of Ed and to Charles at the Board of Ed office, we'd appreciate it. And we will not answer you tonight, but we will possibly take this up at a future Board of Ed meeting and certainly offer some explanation at some future date. So thank you for your concern and thank you for your comments. It's nice to have the public listening in and paying attention to what we're doing. So thank you. Thank you very much. And you're very proud of your daughter, I'm sure, who graduated from Portland High School, right?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you very much.
And she did have finals.
She did. Thank you. Thank you very much for weighing in tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So, without further ado, any comments from this side of the table?
We were at Sarah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah. Yes. Oh,
So,
sorry.
The two professionals that tendered their resignation since the last board meeting, Angela Bird and Amanda Halpin. I just wanted to publicly appreciate them as a parent of a child who's benefited from their services, and to say that I know they have poured their heart into what they do. So I appreciate that.
Great, thank you. Okay, Dave, any comments?
I agree with that, especially one that's going to work to the end of the school year. That really helps us a lot rather than in the middle of the year having to scramble.
It
So
does. Yes, it
much
does.
appreciated.
Yeah.
And thanks for the gift as well.
Kim and Tim on this side.
I want to
Comments?
say thank you for the treats. That was very kind. And I participated in Read Across America last week. I was able to come to Valley View, saw some of my fellow board members there, and it was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate being included in that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a fun time. Tim?
Well, I'll jump on board and say thank you, too, for the recognition and the new mug. I'll enjoy that tomorrow with my coffee. And I just, on the comment that we just heard here, I will be interested. I'll send an email and just learning. Because I remember there was a discussion about I thought it was reducing or less focus on finals and midterms, but is that a fact that there are literally no more finals and midterms, Charles? That
I think we're going to discuss it, we can discuss it at policy, and we can respond to the questions.
Well, I'm not ready to respond to a question.
It's.
I thought it was like something was floated more.
Trust me, there are no lack of tests at Portland High School. I really think we should have a lengthier discussion about this, but in short, I would just say, historically, for midterm and final exams, and as a high school principal, I was having this conversation a long time ago, it is stop everything for 2 weeks out of the year, shorten the day, and have students come in for 2 classes on a half-day basis. Use enormous amounts of instructional time for, in some cases, high-stakes tests that often fall into that sort of multiple choice, rote recall, DOK, Bloom's taxonomy, level 1 type of what can we remember because we cram it into our brains. Which research is evolving, and as we move in different directions and consider things differently about how we ask students to demonstrate their understanding is evolving. We'll leave it at that.
Right.
So the question is whether at the high school that is an effective use of instructional time, which also matches up with, don't forget, the high school changed its schedule, whereas in years past you sort of needed that lengthier period because the periods were only 45 minutes long. Now you have hour-long blocks where more meaningful assessments can occur in a longer chunk of time. Now that's just one response. There are 4 or 5 other meaningful bullet points that I know Ms. Lawson would love to come and talk to us about that.
Right. And I think that would be
and talk to us less about what we aren't doing and more about what we are doing. And as far as, well, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, thank you. I didn't want to
Roger.
put you on the spot with that, but I wasn't sure.
Okay.
I've written down, I have another one.
Okay, no, you can, please.
No, I just looked at my calendar. We have the board retreat coming up in a week or so.
That's
Is that
what we were
still
gonna
on,
mention.
and what are we
It
doing?
is.
I forgot to mention that tonight. Yes,
Yeah,
and it comes.
you did.
Don't forget,
I
we
was-
have March
24th.
18th.
That's what I have.
Right, that's not this weekend. It's next weekend.
It's the
Thank you.
same weekend as Once Upon a Time.
Right, and that's, we're gonna do that from 8 to 11:30. It'll be at the high school. I'll get breakfast for us. I'll send out the menu again.
Is it 8 or 8:30?
8:30 to 11:30.
8:30.
Yep, and that is with Nick Caruso from CAVE is gonna come talk to us about that topic that we all know is a hot button and important topic for us. So put that on, make sure that's on your calendars, and then I'll send out, we'll do Malili's again. They do a really nice breakfast. Let me know what you like. I'll pick it up for us, and we'll see you at 8:30, and we'll have a nice breakfast and conversation.
Sounds like fun. All right, sounds like some work. All right, I thank you for recognizing this wonderful board that we have. We, I think, all work together and collaborate and come up with some really great things for our district. And we love our teachers, we love our administrators, and it's so far so good. So thank you for our recognition. I don't have anything really to report. We're still working on legislative stuff. There's a lot of stuff hanging. We'll see what comes out of the committee, and we'll see what gets voted on, and I hope there's no more mandates coming at us, but other than that, that's it right now. So we need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of the RFP award for ESS and for staffing services and the purpose of the MOU for extracurricular stipends. And we need to invite Dr. Britton.
I move we go into executive session and invite Dr. Britton and Stephanie.
Do you need, yeah, maybe stay
Do
for
we
the
need Stephanie
ESS
too?
part.
And Stephanie, thank you. Sarah,
I'll second
thank
it.
you.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you.
go ahead.
Tim? Yeah, Kim, okay. All right, thank you. The time is now 8:20, and we will see you shortly.